Yes, I'm a king, go I think I'm a king, go.
We declared in this place that it is far too important for us to roll up our sleeves and get in the ring and fight for this country rather than be spectators sitting outside. I am here to invite all of us as South Africans to say now is the time that all of us get up together and begin to build this great nation of ours. We are here to change the occupants of the union buildings to build a government of the people and by the people. And so today, as a humble servant of the people of this country, I want to make this declaration. Many have wondered what I've been doing. Many have wondered where we've been. I think Ubuntu summed it up well. But this morning, this afternoon, in this place, I am here to declare that I will be running for the President of the Republic of South Africa come 2024. This is what we're about, and we're going to fight. It is time in this country for change. That for all of you who know our Constitution, that we can build a country that prospers for all who live in it, black, white, Indian, and colored. Together we can build a peaceful nation and take our rightful place in the family of nations. And the other day, I was reflecting on today. And I became all too aware of the day when David had to confront Goliath. Our nation is full of too many Goliaths. The Goliath of crime, the Goliath of corruption, the Goliath of our own past. But I'm here to tell you, we all know how the story ends, in that I truly believe that when we stand up together as the Davids in this nation, we will overcome, we will triumph, and we will defeat the Goliath of this nation, and our nation can be born in a day. Now is the time. Today we are here to say, we the people are standing up together to bring about change la eMzantsi Afrika. Let's be honest and say, we've seen too many squandered opportunities. We've seen a government that's failed to capitalize on the goodwill of all South Africans. It's failed to build on the diversity of the talent pool that we have. We arrive in our country today where we're seeing the maturation of nationalism. The idea that one race can dominate another. We are seeing the end of Afrikaner nationalism. We are also seeing the end of African nationalism. And because we are seeing those ends, as we even are beginning to see other forms of nationalism come to an end, there are others who want to stoke up another form of nationalism that begins to flare up the resurrection of xenophobic fires in our country. All of those who are stirring up these xenophobic fires are doing so to shield the government from accountability. I was outside the city of Johannesburg not a few weeks ago. I watched with horror when a building caught fire and over 100 people died. Many are still hospitalized. It was painful. Many children had to have their mothers throw them from floors, and so many children today are still traumatized. Here's what truly also did disturb me. Politicians arrived on the scene and asked the question, whose IDs Or where were these people from? The day we begin to judge the quality of a life on the basis of the passport it carries is the day we lose our humanity as Africans. What does remain true is that many South Africans died in that Joburg fire. But you know what's sad? Their lives will be in vain. Because still today, no one in government took responsibility for the failure of governance in Johannesburg. Yes. As a country, as we break in, we realize, no, we must change. We must come back to ourselves and build our values of Ubuntu, of togetherness, of respect, of accountability, of equality and dignity, unity and servant leadership and inclusiveness. We know we can be better, but we know others don't want us to be better. And bopala-pala. But if we are honest with ourselves, we live in two South Africas. We may have one ID, but we live in two South Africas. We live in a South Africa where there's divisions between cities that are working well and cities that are forgotten. We live in good neighborhoods where children can walk around freely, and in neighborhoods where no child is safe. We live in a country where there's excellent private services. And when you go to some hospitals, it's inhumane public service. Only a few in our country have got access to health care, to private security, to private schools. And many people tell me, wow, that side of South Africa works well. But we dare never forget, not far from Sandton is Alexandra. Not far from this place, Kisoshanguve Mamelodi. That's where another part of our people live. Another part of citizens where tens of millions of citizens are forced to use public hospitals, and these are centers of dysfunction. You see, for too many of our people, they send their children where classrooms are full of 50 children or more. For many of our people, they live in an economy where there are no economic opportunities. They receive fresh wounds and fresh injuries constantly that create an atmosphere of hate, of anger, of divisions that can negatively impact our politics. And here's what's sad. There are politicians who thrive on our divisions. They come every time to campaign to say, well, let's get black people to fight against white people. Let's blame this one. Let's blame that one. They stoke up our racial divisions. They make fun of the aspirations of the truth and reconciliation process, and they tell us the Constitution was a failure. They hark back to the politics of 1994. That's why sitting in this room, and when I look at our candidates, I can celebrate that so many of them are black, they are white, they are Indian, they are colored, they are lawyers, they are doctors, they are advocates. They have come together to say we can build, build, build. They have come together to say South Africa will prosper because they will build, build, build. Amandla! Because they like to blame other people and tell us, no, the issues of our failure are because of a minority or foreigners or this one. I'm here to tell you, while they stoke up xenophobia, you and I will stand up together and build, build. Come on. Fellow South Africans, when many people, especially our young people, are worried about where their next job is going to come from, and they think to themselves, this is the only place, they've lost their way. I am here to tell those young people that if 70% of you cannot find a job, one day a BOSA government is coming, and that BOSA government is going to build. Come on. When the matric pass rates in the richest schools remains unchanged at over 90%, and in the poorest schools remains at 10% in the last 2 years, when half of our children can't even make it to the matric, and this government wants to tell us education is working well, whilst in truth, Verwoerd would be proud of the education system that this government has produced. I am here to tell them we are here to bring an education system that will make sure the future of our young people is strong, because when we talk about build one South Africa, we are here to build. So I'm here to tell you, when they destroy, we build. When they look backwards and blame apartheid, when they tell us we don't have engineers because they've messed it up in the last 30 years, when the lights go off and they blame the past wasted years, when they tell us, no, criminals can run around freely in this country and the only one we seem to be watching at, we will tell them one simple thing: we are here to mantra. Because I want to tell you, every time I watch the Springboks, I'm reminded that a child from Zwede can work with a child from Kempton Park and a colored child from Humansdorp. They can work together to build a formidable side, and they can win. If the Springboks teach us something, let's remind ourselves that together as a country, we can build. And the stakes have never been higher, and the clock is ticking. So let me tell you how we're going to do it. I've already spoken about the fact that we will build, in the first 1,000 days, a place where the children's rights are protected. I want to tell you that I know it's very possible for our streets to be safe and our neighborhoods to be places where children play. I know that we can live in a country that's led by leadership you can trust, a state that is capable. I know that we can wake up one day with 90% of our people go up to high-skilled jobs. I know that we can live in our homes rather than running TV, LG, or the microwave, Samsung, or Sony. We can have Mkiza TV, Mutaung microwaves, and Futwani air fryers. Don't just tell me to buy local. I'm here to tell you to build locally and manufacture here. I know we can change things. I know that we can fight criminals rather than watching one case on TV, Yasenzo Moyewa, while so many people are still dying and are not finding. I know we can do that. And so when people ask me, what is the first thing you would do if you became president? I want to tell you this one thing. When we become president, the first 100 days, we are going to build a government of the most skilled people, a competent government. We want a strong government. We are going to attract the most talented to government. And I want to say to politicians, if you don't have a degree, don't even bother coming to parliament. We are tired of politicians who can't even read. They will come back and say to us, look here, in the last 30 years we couldn't go to school. I'm here to tell them, in the next, before apartheid we couldn't go to school. I say that's fine. But after apartheid you could go to school. You should have gone to school. And we want people who will be examples for our children and value education. Amandla! We are going to put a job in every home. Let's put a job in every home, and we do that by making sure our townships are places of economic zones where we can invest over 200 billion rands to create new jobs and wealth for our citizens. We're going to roll out an expanded public works program to offer every person who is unemployed an opportunity to work. We are going to introduce a voucher system that is going to give children the right to choose which school they must go to. And we are going to introduce collaboration schools in South Africa so that people have a right to choose where their children can go, so that you don't ever have to say, if I live in a poor area with a poor school, I will end up with a poor education. But you can stand up and say, now I can choose where I can send my kid, and I will introduce collaboration schools that will make sure our STEAM subjects are working better and our education is changed for the future of our young people. When they destroy, we build. I want to make sure that when the police work, they are professionalized. We must introduce more people to come and work. And Rona, we are going to introduce 120,000 additional police officers in this country. So, your days are numbered. Lastly, we must build a government that will deliver for all the people. I'm going to introduce specialized corruption courts so that we don't have more Zondo commissions. We need a capable government that is digital, that will finish corruption, because corruption begins when a government is incompetent. If you commit corruption, 15 years is yours. And lastly, I want to say, after BRICS, we must build a prosperous Africa. We must build a multipolar universe where Africa can thrive. We must strengthen African trade. As Kwame Nkrumah said, we choose neither west nor east, but we fight for the interests of Africa so Africa can prosper. We will fight for democracy in the continent to make sure countries like Zimbabwe uphold elections that are free and fair. We are going to make sure there's a visa regime in this country that makes sure anyone who enters our country does so legally and properly, so that their rights and the rights of citizens are protected. And lastly, we have to make sure we partner globally to enhance trade with EU countries and ensure bilaterals like AGOA, the Africa Free Trade Addition, is strengthened. Fellow South Africans, now is the time to build. This is not the time to throw in the towel. I want to say to the young people in this country, November, registration is open. As BOSA activists here, I want to ask you, let's make sure more young people are registered and are registered to vote come 2024. Young people, I'm challenging you, let's register. Now is the time to stand up together to build this nation. I want to ask you sitting in this room, while they are destroying, let's begin to build. I'm going to ask you to stand up, because what I have seen in my life is that as a youth worker, I worked to build hope in value in communities, and I saw communities stand up together and say we can build a country. I can remember as a pastor in a church, when we worked to build churches and centers of hope, I wouldn't be in politics had it not been the conviction to say this country can prosper, and God has not forgotten about our nation. Our nation can prosper. As leader of the opposition in parliament, we stood up together and we said, can we build coalitions that work and a government that works? So while they destroy, now is the time to build. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to fold up our arms. I'm ready to stand up together. And I want to invite all of you, if you love this country, if you call BOSA your home, I want you to stand up in this room. I want you to put your hand up and say, Tuma mina, aritamaye, ariloacha South Africa. Let's stand up together and say South Africa will prosper. We must win. We must build an alternative. We must build an ethical government. We must build an inclusive economy. We must empower South Africans. Fellow South Africans, I stand with you. I stand with so many that say enough is enough. Let us stand up together and let us build a nation that can prosper, that while they destroy, we can build. While they take us backwards, we can build. When they divide us on race, we can build. For South Africa will be united in its diversity. Amrena buluke sitjhaba sa yeso. Nkosi sikeleli Africa. Godse South Africa. Let us build, let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our beautiful land.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king. I think I'm a king.